Good morning, Year 5. Welcome back to another series of the Firework-Maker's Daughter. A quick recap as to what happened last time. If you remember, Lao Chan managed to find Chulak after he found that his daughter had ran away, that she was off to Mount. What was the mountain called? Maybe you could tell me. But to find the secret. And, we find out that actually the whole secret wasn't found out. That if she went to the mountain without protection, that she would perish. And so Chulak, obviously not wanting this, comes up with a really good plan. We'll find out exactly what it is. And also the white elephant wants to help out as well. So how is the white elephant going to, help out when he's going to a new owner? So that's something we'll find out hopefully this episode. All this while, Lila had been making her way through the jungle towards a sacred volcano. Mount Merapi lay far to the north, and she had never seen it until now. Late that afternoon, she came to a bend in a jungle path and found herself beside the river. The size of the great mountain made her gasp. It was far away on the very edge of the world, but even so it reached halfway up the sky, with the bare side rising in a perfect cone to the glowing crater at the top. From time to time the fire spirits who lived there rumbled angrily underground and threw boiling rocks high into the air. A plume of eternal smoke drifted from the summit to join the clouds. How can I ever get there? She wondered, and felt her heart quail. But she had chosen to make the journey, and she could hardly turn back when she'd barely began. She shifted her bundle from one shoulder to the other and walked on. The jungle was a very noisy place. Monkeys gibbered in the trees, the parrots screeched, and the crocodiles snapped their jaws in the river. Every so often Lila had to step carefully over a snake sleeping in the sun, and once she heard the roar of a mighty tiger. There was no one to be seen except some fishermen laboriously rowing their boat across the other side of the river. She stopped and watched as they brought their boat in towards the bank where she was standing. They weren't making very good progress. There were 6 or 7 of them, and all their oars were getting in one another's way. So that doesn't seem to be very helpful. As she watched, one of the fishermen missed the water completely with his oar, which swung round and clumped another fisherman on the head. Quite comical. That fisherman turned round and punched the first one, who fell off his seat and with a squeal and dropped the oar in the water. One of the others tried to grab it, but instead he fell out of the boat, which rocked so violently that the others all cried out in alarm and grabbed the sides. So quite a comedy show here, I'm sure. The man who'd fallen out was splashing and spluttering as he tried to climb back into the boat, and all the crocodiles, basking in the shallows, looked up, interested. Uh-oh. Lila caught her breath in alarm, but the fisherman was so helpless that she could hardly stop herself laughing. Because when the man in the water leaned over the gunwale, all the men in the boat leaned over that side to help him, and the boat tipped over so far that they nearly fell in too. I think if I was in that situation, I probably would have laughed as well. They suddenly realized what was happening and let go, and then the boat tipped back the other way, and they all fell on their backs. And the crocodile slid off the sandbank and began to swim towards them. "Oh, pull it in, you stupid creatures!" Lila cried. "Over the end, not over the side." One of the fishermen heard her and hauled the man over the stern to lie in the bottom, flopping and gasping like a fish. Meanwhile, the boat had drifted in to the side, and Lila put out a hand to stop it bumping. As soon as they saw her, the fishermen nudged one another. "Look," said one. "Go on," muttered one of them. "You ask her." "No, it was your idea. You do it." It wasn't me, it was Chang. Well, he can't say anything. He's still full of water. Finally, one of them snorted with impatience and stood up, making the boat rock alarmingly. He was the stoutest man in the boat, and by far the most impressive, for he wore an ostrich plume nodding in his turban. Turban being one of those sort of like bandage wrapped hats. An enormous black moustache and a tartan sarong. Oh, maybe you should search up what tartar sarong is. Miss, he said, would I be correct in supposing that you were hoping to cross the river? Well, as a matter of fact, I was, said Lila. He tapped his fingertips together with pleasure. And would I also be correct in supposing that you had a little money? A little, yes, said Lila. Could you take me across? I'll pay you. Look no further, he said proudly. Rambashi's river taxi is at your service. I am Rambashi. Welcome aboard. Now, before I read on, should Lila be quite worried about using their taxi? Because as far as we know, they're not very good at their job. And one of them almost got killed. Right, carrying on. Lila wasn't sure why a river taxi should have the name The Bloody Murderer painted on the bow. Okay, interesting. Nor why Rambashi should be wearing no less than 3 daggers in his belt, one straight, one curved, and one wavy. However, there was no way to cross the river, and she stepped aboard, trying to avoid the man who'd been saved from drowning, who was still lying, dripping in the bottom of the boat. The others took no notice of him at all, but rested their feet on him as if he was a rolling carpet. Now that's really interesting. I wonder why. First of all, their boat's called the Bloody Murderer, and the person in charge seems to have some sort of weapons of different shapes and sizes. So maybe we'll find out what will happen. Cast off, my brave lads, cried Rambashi. Lila sat on the prow and held the sides apprehensively as the Bloody Murderer swayed out into the current. Behind her she could hear the clash of oars as the blades banged together, the cries of pain as one of the man's handles struck another man's back, and the groaning and cursing as the half-drowned man tried to regain his seat. But she didn't take much notice, because there was plenty to look at on the water. There were dragonflies and hummingbirds, and a family of ducks out for an afternoon cruise, and crocodiles practicing looking like logs, and all sorts of things. But presently she noticed that the rowers had stopped talking, and the boat wasn't rocking unsteadily as if it had been when they were rowing. In fact, it was drifting. The oarsmen weren't entirely silent either. She could hear whispers. You tell her. No, I don't want to. It's your turn. You've got to. You said you would. Let Chang do it. It's about time he did something. He's not fierce enough. You do it. Lila turned around. Oh, for goodness sake, she said. What are you? But she didn't finish her sentence because of the sight of what she met her eyes. All the rowers had put down their oars, which were sticking out in all directions, and each rower had tied a handkerchief over his nose and mouth, and they were all holding daggers. Rambashi was holding two. They all jumped slightly when she turned round. Then they looked at Rambashi. Yes, he said. Fooled you, ha! This isn't a river taxi at all. We are pirates, the fiercest pirates on the whole river. We'd cut your throat as soon as look at you. And drink your blood, one whispered. Oh yes, and drink your blood. All of it. Hand over your money, come on. He waved his dagger so vigorously that the boat rocked and he nearly fell over. Lila almost laughed. Pay up, said Rambashi. You're captured. Your money or your life. I warn you, we're desperate men. And that's the end of chapter. What chapter are we on? chapter 2. That's the end of chapter 2. Very interesting situation that she seems to be in. Well, it's true that she seems to be captured, but by what kind of men? Men that make her laugh? We'll find out next time.